Okay. No, I'm still a bit confused with how it works. So this is how I start and talk.
Yes, yes. So you can just start off and then you can give a brief introduction about yourself.
Okay.
And then if you want to start your screen sharing, you can start that also.
Okay. Screen sharing in the sense the
PPT,
presentation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
the slide. Okay. Okay. So let me. Right. So most of the people, they have your email address.
They should have it. Otherwise, you can ask them to contact. They'll having the numbers definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's info@bfi
sportsandfitness.com.
bfisportsandfitness.com. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, this is the first time I'm doing something like this.
Okay.
You know, we've given talks and interviews, but this is slightly different. But I've always wanted to do it. You know, that's why when you said that, then I said, yeah. And then it's for me, it's a learning experience only. All the time we're learning all the time.
Yeah, we have to know something new. We have someone with us. I think Patan Ali Khan.
Okay. Yes.
You can ask people to introduce themselves also, what they are doing.
Yes, yes.
Good evening.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. आपको हिंदी आती है, मैम? Only English?
नहीं हिंदी आती है, बट यू नो क्योंकि जो एजुकेशन वगैरह होता है वो, बट आप मुझसे क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकते हो.
ओके मैम. आप टॉपिक तो चालू होने के बाद थोड़े डाउट्स आते ना, जब पूछ लूंगा मैम.
हाँ, आप पूछिएगा, और जो चैट बॉक्स है उसमें आप क्वेश्चंस लिख सकते हो, और जैसे कि कुछ क्वेश्चंस आएंगे, डेफिनेटली आई विल ट्राई टू आंसर. Okay, I just want to ask one thing, like if it extends beyond 1 hour, Rajiv ji है यहाँ पे?
हाँ, yes, I am there.
Okay, if you know, for any reasons it may if it may extend beyond for 5-10 minutes, does it close automatically?
No problem. We can go on till as much as you want.
Okay.
Yes,
no, I'm sure everybody also wants to move on with their activities, but then sometimes it like it happens in this Instagram,
Yes.
the moment 1 hour it shuts on its own. It's like they're telling us go away.
Thank you.
So are we recording this also?
Yes, the recording is going on.
Okay, that's good, so I can have a copy of it also, so
yes,
that I
sure,
can analyze myself later on.
Yes, sure. We can give a recording to everybody, anyone who wants it also.
Okay, that's great.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of BFI, we welcome you to this webinar by Dr. Rita Ji. We are very thankful to her for giving us her time. And we would request her to start the webinar. Rita Ji, you can introduce yourselves and ask everyone also to introduce themselves. Please, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome and thank you for taking out time to listen to my perspective on fitness for women. And I'm Dr. Rita Jarath, IFBB Figure Pro, and I am an IFBB Pro League International Judge. I'm also a writer in several fitness magazines and in Crunch Today, Fitness Guru, and bodyandstrength.com, where I write articles about different subjects. And besides that, I'm involved in certain activities as a World Peace Ambassador. And I welcome you all. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi Rita, this is Anita. Shall I introduce myself now?
Yes, sure. Please go on, Anita. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to have a session with you. Thank you so much, BFI. And myself, Anita Taluri, and it's been more than 20 years I'm into fitness field, and actually I'm also a trainer having my own center in Gurgaon called Beyond Fitness. And I'm more into group activities, and right now I'm pursuing with Pilates. So looking forward for sessions. Thank you so much.
So I would just like to add here that I will be trying to keep it as comprehensive as possible. I have a few presentation slides where I have given key points, but you can always, if you have questions, you can ask me in the chat box and I will answer them at the end of the session. But besides that, you can always write to me. Either you can write to BFI info at bfisportsandfitness.com or to me directly at ritasingh76@hotmail.com, and I will be giving you the email ID again at the end. And in case you have any doubts that you want to get back, then you can definitely contact on the same number which were there on the banner for WhatsApp. I think that, not many of you are coming forward for the introduction. So I will begin and I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much. So as far as women's fitness is concerned, it is so precious because women are the anchors of the family and the society. They have to constantly work to create an equilibrium between the various roles that they have to play, in their families, in the society, and in their careers and their professional life. We also know that women's bodies undergo a lot of changes in their lifetime, from menarche to menopause, and during pregnancy, childbirth, lactation, and then planning for the old age. We also have to understand that women are, they have to, I'm sorry, let me say that. Okay, so what does a woman aim for? What is a woman looking for when she perceives fitness? So there may be some women who are looking, just to be so thin that they can get into a certain dress, or they may want to carry out their day-to-day activities without feeling any fatigue and have a general sense of well-being all the time. Some women think that weight training will somehow make them look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Ronnie Coleman, or make them a huge bodybuilder. Or some women have actual athletic endeavors where they would like to maximize their strength. So, as far as women in sports are concerned, the International Olympic Committee was formed in 1896. And it was after more than 112 years that we actually had a woman on the executive board. It was in 1991, while initially women were not even participating in sports, a century ago. In 1991, the Olympic Committee made it mandatory that any games that needs to enter Olympic sports must have a women's division. So, as far as bodybuilding is concerned, because I come from a background of bodybuilding and I consider it a very positive sport, which is all inclusive and very comprehensive and an extended aspect, a version of fitness actually. So initially the women who were into bodybuilding were trying to be like men, and they tried to, that was pretty freaky, and not many women would relate to that, because considering the size and the level of striations and conditionings that they had. So the International Federation of Bodybuilding has actually come up with divisions to include more women, so that more women can understand and manifest that as those aspects of fitness into their actual real life. So now that we have certain divisions like the bikini divisions and the figure, the fitness, women's wellness, and physique, and in accordance with the skeletal structure that a woman has, she can choose to be the best version of herself according to her genetic potential. So what happens when a woman decides to compete? The athletic shelf life is always shorter, whether it's a man or a woman. It cannot be unduly prolonged because of the level to which we take our bodies to compete internationally, that is taking the body to our actual next extreme. So what happens when a woman trains and exercises? For example, if she is doing a squat or a deadlift, and when she's doing a squat, she knows that what is the stance that she should hold, how she should engage her core, her gluteus muscle. When she is doing a deadlift, she should not be getting into the kyphosis. And so when she does her, it gets so much into her muscle memory that while doing her day-to-day activities, the correct form, technique, stance, and engaging of muscles is manifested into all her daily life activities. And that is probably the best benefit besides the awareness in nutrition, which she can give on to her family. So, so now I want to come to those women who think that weight training will make them very muscular, because I feel that weight training is actually the key to fitness, and everything must revolve around weight training for so many reasons, to which I will come to later in this session. But because of socio-cultural reasons, women are told so many times that they are not strong and they are weaker actually. So they have not learned to apply themselves. So when a woman goes to a gym and initially begins training, the initial gain in strength is much more as compared to men. So the initial gains may intimidate her, but it's like, when you bake a cake, it's fluffy in the beginning and then it's settled down, eventually. So what happens is that while the initial gains are more, there is a limiting factor, because the women have lower level of testosterone, and so she will never get as muscular as she's imagining, and the graph will not always be as steep. So now when women train, they gain more of the myofibrillar hypertrophy rather than the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, as you all know. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy occurs more in men, in the fast twitch muscle fibers, and that actually grows in size. So men have more of that, but in women, kind of the thickness in the muscle, which is the myofibrillar hypertrophy, and that has more of mitochondria, and so she uses more of IMTG, which is the intramuscular triglyceride, for oxidation and getting the energy for her workout. So the reason why she will not use that much of glycogen actually is because of low glycolytic enzyme activity, and also the the suppressive effect of estradiol. Estradiol is the female hormone for the size of the female reproductive organs, and including the breast size. So a lower level of estradiol can really affect her health as a woman. So now strength training, as I said, is not going to make her muscular at all. That is the essence of this, what I'm saying right now. And after strength training, the post-exercise oxygen consumption, that is the EPOC, that is the oxygen that continues to be used even after the workout is over. It remains increased significantly, and her resting energy, respiratory exchange ratio, that is also below 1. So when it is 1, it means more of carbohydrate is used, and when it is below 1, it's say about 0.7 to 0.8, it indicates oxidation of fat. So in that sense, the fat oxidation, as you know, provides more energy because there is greater number of calories in fat. You can take it like that. So it is always beneficial for women to do more of volume training. Women must keep a positive calorie balance. If we talk about the number of calories that women want, there are a lot of techniques. The best method is indirect calorimetry, which is very, very accurate. And then you can also use the total energy expenditure calculation equations, but they are very complex, and you need to add the resting energy expenditure with the physical activity level, and add it to the thermal effect of activity, for which there is a compendium and a chart. But the thing is that we don't want to, unless and until you have, serious athletic goals. The American College of Sports Medicine has kind of given a thumb rule to keep it between 39 to 44 calories per kilogram of her body weight. So when you calculate that, at least you know that roughly the number of calories that she should be consuming. If it goes below 30, why I say it that because of some kind of societal pressures, there is a section of girls who try to be thin. They can get anorexic, and especially in professions like gymnastics, and we see ballet dancers who are really very, very thin, and that can affect them very, very adversely if they are going so much below their calorie needs, and that can lead them into the female athlete triad. So the female athlete triad is, a combination of disorders when the girls or the women, they end up with osteoporosis or menstrual disorders, and also they have eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia. So that can really adversely affect their health and have serious repercussions in the long run. So that is something that you must consider. Instead of getting too thin, there you have to focus on being strong and the ability to maximize your potentials. Now, it is also, as I stress on the consumption of fats, especially the essential fatty acids for women, it is not that women do not need carbohydrates, but they must focus on carbohydrates with low glycemic index. So I'll just give a couple of lines about what glycemic index is. That when you consume a carbohydrate, then blood sugar gets elevated, especially if it is a high glycemic index carbohydrate. Then the blood sugar rises suddenly. There's a sudden spike, and that kind of gives an indication to the brain that the blood sugar is high, and the brain tells the pancreas to produce insulin. Insulin is like a key. It takes the nutrients to the muscles, and so the carbohydrate is taken to the muscle or the liver to be stored as glycogen. Now, if there is no bodily activity going on, there's no active work, or the glycogen reserves are full, it will get converted into fat and get stored. So that is not very desirable. And so we say that if you take a low glycemic index carbohydrate, the energy release in the body, the release of blood sugar, the sugar will be released slowly into the system and will be used as and when the various activities are occurring. So women must focus on low glycemic index carbohydrate, which can be obtained from things like potatoes and yams and vegetables, pulses, and also cereals. So high glycemic index carbohydrate is generally taken only in two situations, especially post-workout, when the glycogen reserves have depleted significantly, or a person is suffering from low blood sugar. Now, proteins particularly is something very significant for women. There are a lot of things that I hear regarding protein. They say ye dabbe wala body hai. That is a very typical kind of thing, which I think all of you must have heard. And our skin is protein, our hair is protein, our nails are protein, all the exoskeletons are proteins, and your hemoglobin is protein. Your muscles and bones, of course, are, they need protein for muscle and muscle building and bone building. And then you have your neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are, proteinaceous substances between two neurons. You have the cell body and the axon, and then the dendrons, and between two of them, the electrical impulses are converted into chemical, messages, and then reconverted into electrical messages and passed on. So for this transmission, you need proteins. So it is so very essential. The one or two concerns regarding proteins. One, that high protein diet can raise the decrease the pH, because then the acidic levels increase, and that will cause the calcium to be leached out of the bones. Actual tests have been done to prove that this is incorrect, and there is no significant evidence for that. And secondly, the renal health, which is a big concern, that it may affect the kidneys, the high glomerular pressure and the hyperfiltration. There is no evidence of that. So of course, I won't go into details, but really I just want to stress upon the value of having proteins in your diet, that you are made of proteins and you shouldn't worry about any such side effects. Calcium is one thing which women must supplement for sure in their bodies, because as women grow older, especially after 30, there are cells which make bone cells, which help in formation of bone cells, which are called osteoblasts, and the ones which break down bone cells, they are called osteoclasts. Osteoblasts are active till 30, and after that their activity goes down, and the osteoclasts become more active. And so, since calcium has a life-saving significance in the body, in the sense that if calcium helps in blood clotting. So if you get a cut, your life is threatened, because the blood clotting has been inhibited because of lack of calcium. So nature wants to protect you, and so nature will leach out the calcium from the bones if your blood calcium levels are low. So if there is a sufficient amount of calcium and you're giving the right resistance to the bone, especially by weight training or weight bearing exercises, then the osteoblasts remain more active and the bone density is increased. So calcium, and then of course the iron supplementation, because women undergo their menstrual cycles and they lose blood, and also that especially vegetarian women would get non-heme iron in their diet. Iron is absorbed in the form of heme iron or non-heme iron. Heme iron is present in non-vegetarian foods, and non-heme iron is present in vegetarian food. Taking the example of, say, spinach, like spinach also has oxalates and phthalates which inhibit the absorption of iron. So if you are taking spinach thinking that you will get a lot of iron, already the non-heme iron is not absorbed easily, and the oxalates and phthalates further inhibit. So you should be, if you're feeling fatigue or exhaustion, and you feel that you need to get your hemoglobin counts checked, that should be especially relevant for women. The calcium and iron supplementation. So now, yes. Okay, so coming to the fat, in the diet, women should get at least 30% of their calories should be from fat. If they are in a profession where they need to go down on their fat levels, especially like in bodybuilding, we do that just before the competition. The calories from the fats go down, and because we're playing with the carbohydrate and protein at that point of time. And so at that time, it should be an endeavor to make sure that the essential fatty acids are present in the diet. So the EFA, for that, the choice of food should be very, very, you should be careful with the choice of food. And the low fat diet also has an adverse effect on the estradiol. So, for all the female reproductive organs and for the reproductive health, the fats are very important, especially the pupa and the mufa. I mean, I will talk a lot about the fats in my workshop with nutrition. I hope many of you will be there too. So women, since time immemorial, say from the Paleolithic age, have been very hardworking creatures. And even in those days, while they were not doing those explosive moves as in hunting, they were always helping in things like food gathering, carrying food home, carrying water home, carrying children, helping in the construction of homes. And so these activities involved digging, climbing, stretching, bending, walking, lifting. These activities have always been performed by women. So women's bodies as a gift have evolved to handle huge amount of volume. So because of that evolution process, if a woman goes to a gym and begins training, she's able to actually handle a lot of volume. And so how a woman's training schedule should be designed, that she should be doing more repetitions and more sets in her routine, because since she has more of slow twitch muscle fibers, she can really handle a lot of volume. The rest between workouts can be much lesser. She can do significantly well with circuit training. As she comes closer to her 1 rep max goals, that efficiency will go down. Also, and one of the reasons for that also is because men have a larger, their cortex, the motor cortex is larger in men, and the nervous system in women is not as efficient. So, if she's forced all the time, we see a lot of schedules that are designed for women are mainly done by men, and so everything is from men, by men, and from their perspective. So while 1 rep max is very good for women, especially if she is a power lifter, she has to the specificity principle comes in, and she has to go according to that. But if the slow twitch muscle fibers, where her genetic potential lies, where that is her strength, if that is strengthened to the maximum, that will further help her to create a foundation and base even for her 1 rep max moves. If she is forced all the time to do the very heavy reps and low repetitions, then she will not be able to get the benefit of her genetic potential. So, it's like teaching a fish how to climb a tree. So you got to see what you are capable of whenever you design a training schedule for anybody, unless and until you have a specific goal, and then that must be periodized accordingly. So the same thing happens when you talk about cardiovascular exercise. The steady state exercises, in a lower speed and for a prolonged period will help to oxidize fat and will use fat as a substrate, whereas the HIIT will use more of glycogen. So glycogen reserves in women are definitely lesser than in men, unless and until she has worked and strived for it. So steady state, if the goal is fat loss, steady state works for her. Nevertheless, it is good to alternate HIIT and steady state forms of cardiovascular exercise to make it very comprehensive and complete, but we know where the focus must be. Whether it is weight training or cardiovascular exercise, if it is periodized, we're just focusing, we are aware what is going to give you the maximum benefits. But as men get to endurance training and women go to their 1 rep max and strength training, the difference becomes much lesser. And these differences also are because of a lot of socio-cultural conditioning. Women also benefit a lot by slow negatives. When especially when you're doing a weight training repetition, the concentric phase can be quicker and the eccentric phase can be slower. And in the negatives, as part of the repetition, when she goes slow, especially in complete range of motion, it particularly helps women more than it helps men. Okay, yes, and the fast lifting tempo will not give her the complete advantage of her endurance. And also women are able to handle metabolic stress better because their arterial blood pressure is low. So a lot of blood, the muscles get the blood easily, and so they also get the oxygen and the nutrients easily, and the toxins are removed more quickly. That is, of course, again because of the low arterial blood pressure. So that because of that, she does not fatigue easily. The time gap between consecutive sets and also between consecutive workouts, complete workouts, can be much lesser, so she can do it more frequently than men. Okay, then the estrogen. Now, as I said, that men have more testosterone, so they have more lean muscle mass, and they have stronger upper bodies. There are hematocrit differences because of the high level of testosterone in men. They have better hemoglobin counts, and so it may seem also the upper body of women is weaker as compared to men. Now, it may seem that men must be having much better metabolism, but when we come to glucose, the metabolism of glucose, although the glycogen reserves in women are lower, what happens is the fasting blood sugar in men is 50 to 100% higher. The whole body glucose clearance in women is 15% faster, and the glucose uptake is 30 to 50% slower in men. So that gives men enough reason to do endurance training and not just stick to the 1 rep max. You go to a gym and you see men, especially, I don't want to stress that here because we're talking more about women, but men work more only on their strength and explosive moves, and then they just leave it. You don't see them doing cardio because that kind of boosts their ego with strength. Because they think that that's what we're supposed to do because we are men. But endurance training can significantly help them. Why? Because their estrogen level goes up. And estrogen is a very protective hormone, and because the presence of estrogen keeps women healthy till they reach menopause. It's very protective as far as bone density is concerned, and the metabolism of glucose is concerned, and even the HDL levels, which protects them from heart disease. So now men might worry that you know, estrogen is a female hormone, and I need to be concerned. It's not that. Unless and until men have a faulty aromatase system or they have a problem with estrogen, otherwise there is nothing that they should be worried about. In fact, the estrogen will help them, the estrogen receptors, when they are improved, they will help the metabolism of glucose, and you know, the mitochondria on the slow twitch muscle fibers will be more activated and keep them energized for a very long time. So now another thing is that we were talking about the differences in the in men and women as far as their metabolism is concerned. The distribution of fat in women is healthier because of estrogen. Men, as you know, have more of an android structure, and women have a gynoid structure. The fat is more, you know, is subcutaneous fat in women, and there is more of visceral fat in men. So the visceral fat gets deposited on the liver and the pancreas, and that actually inhibits the metabolism of the glucose even more. So women rarely have hepatic induced insulin resistance, because the subcutaneous fat directly goes into the blood, and in fact this fat helps to absorb the glucose by a rate of 40% as compared to the glucose absorption by muscles. So even the fat is actually helping the women in the metabolism. The fat in women also helps to produce leptin and adiponectin, which you know, prevent hunger pangs. And so sometimes we see that women, unless and until there is a, you know, a disorder, emotional eating and something like that, but otherwise women don't have greater control as far as their hunger pangs are concerned, and this is one of the reasons for that. Now, the visceral fat also produces inflammatory cytokines, which is very harmful for women. And so the men must do endurance training. And why I say this in a session for women is because women would know how beneficial the estrogen hormone is for them, and why we are very blessed, and we should accept ourselves as being women, and you know, make the best use of our potential and celebrate womanhood. So also as I said, that the upper body in women is comparatively weaker. Women are quad dominating individuals, like the quadricep is very strong, but the posterior chain, which includes the erector spinae, the gluteus, and the hamstring, that must be balanced, and that is so important for you know, having a proper posture and avoiding the lower back pains and knee pain later in life. So all the exercises that you see, like the deadlift and stiff leg deadlifts, and the Romanian deadlift, and the hip bridges or good mornings, all these exercises are you know, extremely beneficial. The ones which are meant for the hips are also meant for the lower back, and vice versa. So the posterior chain is kind of the foundation of the body, and that must be worked upon. Now, these are the few of the supplements that I would like to talk about. Is whey protein. So every individual who is not even raising a finger, you know, as I said, I told you earlier that since protein is needed, you know, all over your body for other bodily functions also, besides muscle building and bone building. So you need whey protein. So especially if you're a vegetarian and you're getting incomplete proteins, you must supplement yourself post workout, and if you're doing strength training, or if you're into athletics or even long distance running, because we don't want you to get into a catabolic state. You want your homeostatic level to be higher. So whey protein can be taken. The minimum amount of protein you need is 0.8 grams per kg of your body weight. If you're not getting sufficient, and then it goes on, you know, from you know, even up to 2.5 to 3, depending on the physical activity level. And if you're not getting it from natural proteins, it's a good idea to supplement yourself, especially post-workout. Once you finish your workout, there is a 20-minute window period where the hormone levels are high. And, if you take whey protein with a high glycemic index carbohydrate, it immediately reaches the cell and gives you the maximum benefit of recovery. The same goes for glutamine also, because if you're doing a heavy workout, then a high level of glutamine also can get oxidized. Glutamine is very important for the immunity of the body. And so once that gets, just after the workout, you have had so much of micro trauma, your glycogen levels are low, and that is a time where you really need to replenish yourself. So it is a very good idea to take a glutamine and whey protein post-workout. If you do not take it in that 20-minute window period where the hormones are good, the same recovery might take you 48 hours actually. So that's a very good time to replenish yourself. It will help in recovery and strengthening, and to go to the next homeostatic level. Creatine is a supplement, of course this stands for both men and women, but I like to tell women to take it once in a while, because especially when it comes to the upper body strength. A lot of women, I was told in the 2003, 2004, long back, I was one of the first women who started doing pull-ups. And actually there might have been other women who were probably in professions, related professions like soldiers or, some other women. But generally from the fitness industry, we didn't see many women doing, pull-ups and bar dips about 15, 20 years ago. And I got my first pull-up with the help of creatine when I actually began taking creatine. So that is a very, very good supplement. I would really like to talk about it in great detail in my workshop for nutrition. That's a very long kind of topic, but it is, just in short, that the creatine phosphate present in the cell will replenish the adenosine diphosphate with the phosphate radical, and prolong your 1 rep max. So that is just a summary of that. So creatine is very relevant. Creatine decreases the blood sugar, so it should be taken post workout with the high glycemic index carbohydrate, so that it can get inside the cell. Another supplement I would like to talk about is evening primrose oil. And I think we all know there's so many supplements that are common for both men and women, but evening primrose oil specifically holds value for women undergoing the menopause. It can drastically reduce the hot and cold flushes, and the mood swings, and the feeling of fatigue, and feeling low. It can really help in that. It's gamma linoleic acid. So that is one supplement that must be spoken about when you do a session with women. Calcium I have already spoken about, and in the end I would like to give you a fat burning stack so that you can just get it in perspective. Fat burning stack, for there is nothing that can substitute a good diet and a workout. That goes without saying. And fat burners, there are hundreds of fat burners. Actually, there are so many ways in which fat burners work. But even if you take a whole drum full of fat burners, it's not going to work unless and until you're going to create a demand for the fats to get oxidized. And suppose you have been doing your best with your diet and workouts, as well as rest and a good mindset and breathing exercises and whatnot. Everything is in place and you're at your best homeostatic level. There may be still some fat, especially for men it's on the abdomen and the love handles, and for women it's on the butts and thighs. That is the last bit of fat that does not go away. And that is the stubborn fat. So the enemy there is the alpha-2 receptors, which is the adrenergic receptor. And that is that kind of, wherever in your body there is this more of alpha-2 receptors, you know, you will have a problem in losing fat. And also that you know that these spot reduction is a big joke. And you have, we see sometimes on the television, people coming up with creams to apply in a certain area, or belts which you wear and the fat will melt away, or something to heat you, or some crunch thing. You know, those ab crunch exercises. Exercise always acts on muscle. When you're moving a joint, it is the muscle which helps you to move. The fat is just there. You have to create an energy demand to help that fat to get oxidized, especially in the active tissue. So what we want when we want this fat to go away is that we want lipolysis to occur. Lipo comes from the word lipid, and lipogenesis is making of fat, you know, and the lipolysis is breaking of fat. So we want lipolysis to occur. Fat is present in the form of triglyceride, especially in the adipose tissue where the fat is. So when lipolysis occurs, a triglyceride molecule will break into 1 glycerol and 3 free fatty acid, because it's triglyceride. So when the free fatty acids are broken, they are free, they will flow with the blood and go to the active tissue, and there, you know, where the demand is created, it will be, you know, used as energy and the energy will be produced in the mitochondria. So once you understand this process, there are many fat burning stacks that you can design on your own. So, you know, excitatory, the adrenaline, it refers to the excitatory catecholamines, that is epinephrine and norepinephrine. These help in fat burning. So now the epinephrine and norepinephrine, these are like hormones, and hormones, you can visualize them as being a kind of a key. So they will work on you know, the LOX, and the LOX are, say, the adrenergic receptors, and they are alpha-1 and alpha-2 and beta-1, beta-2 and beta-3. Out of these, as I said earlier, that where you have more of stubborn fat, it's alpha-2 receptor that is the enemy. So it is anti-lipolytic, and alpha-1 and the beta receptors help in lipolysis. So we want to quieten the activity of alpha-2 receptors. So then, of course, we want these fatty acids to break in the adipose tissue and get carried to the active tissue for oxidation. Then the first supplement in this stack has 5 supplements, and I will tell you how they function. So never again should you be believing any fad diets or anything that tells you, you know, which promises you some sort of magic. And I would like to reinforce here that, you know, the oxidation of fat occurs only when you create demand. And no matter how many fat burners you have, there is a logic behind giving you this. And no matter how many fat burners you have, unless and until it is put to good use and utilized, you know, it's not going to work if the lipolysis happens. Suppose the fatty acids, you know, they break, and you can see the, you know, what happens is that again they will re-esterify and lipogenesis will occur if they are not used. So yohimbine is the first one. It is a alpha-2 receptor antagonist. So that is the first supplement that will quieten the activity of alpha-2 receptor, and it also helps in blood flow. So once alpha-2 receptors is quieted, then the alpha-1 and the beta-1, beta-2, beta-3 will act on the triglyceride. The fatty acids will break, and they will flow with the blood to the active tissue. The second supplement is caffeine. So caffeine is from a family of methylxanthine. The first thing it does is that it is a CNS stimulant, and it helps to improve the cognitive performance. Now, the benefit of that is that you will be able to work out without, tiring yourself out. You will be very, very focused, because when you're concentrating, when you're doing something from the heart, a lot of people, even, the ones who get into the female athlete triad, they are able to work constantly because they have the strength from the CNS. Bodybuilding athletes in the last stages, when they are on a very low carbohydrate diet, are still sometimes able to stay close to the 1 rep max because they get the strength from the CNS, because they are mentally conditioned to do that. They have a very good mind-muscle connection. So caffeine helps significantly in that sense. It is also an adenosine receptor antagonist. So adenosine receptors are, entities that suppress the activity of norepinephrine. So if, you might have shut down the alpha-2 receptor with yohimbine, but there will be other chemicals who will still stop the fat burning. So adenosine receptor will suppress any, and now the lipolysis may still not occur. So two factors here, adenosine receptors and the PDE, which is called the phosphodiesterase, also blunts lipolysis. So these two are suppressed by caffeine, and so the lipolysis can occur very freely. So the third supplement is acetyl L-carnitine. That, as you can see, is an antioxidant. It is anti-aging, it's cardioprotective, and enhances cognitive performance too. So now this helps. Now that we know that we had the fatty acids had broken and they were carried, the blood flow was good enough. Even exercise improves the blood flow. Now to transfer these fatty acids to the mitochondria. That is done by acetyl L-carnitine, and so the fats get oxidized, and since fat have a greater amount of energy, it increases the exercise performance. L-carnitine also helps a lot when you are training, when you're doing a cardio empty stomach. That really helps a lot, because right away your fatty acids start getting oxidized. And the fourth supplement in the stack is the green tea extract. So EGCG is the active ingredient in that. It has a thermogenic effect. Thermogenic in the sense it raises the heart rate and increases the metabolism. It decreases the dietary fat absorption and suppresses appetite. And there's another one. This is catechol-methyltransferase. So this is also another factor that inhibits the working. It breaks down the NE, the norepinephrine. So that also is suppressed by the green tea. And the last, this is a very good supplement. This is sesamine. It is isolated from sesame seeds. Sesame is til, we call it til in Hindi. It's a lignan. Lignan is a molecule that combines with another entity and activates it. Here it combines with the PPAR alpha. That is the peroxisome profilator activator receptor alpha. And as you can see, it is highly expressed in muscle, liver, kidney, heart, and it is involved in the regulation of fat metabolism. It increases the oxidation of fat and decreases the storage of fat. So because, as I told you, it decreases the expression of lipogenic enzymes that cause the free fatty acids to sometimes, as a defense mechanism, they re-esterify, and so it prevents that. And so it increases the gene expression of the fatty acid oxidation enzyme. So this is a fat burning stack. The idea is to have a multi-pronged approach. So if you are, as I said, the alpha-2 receptor is kind of an enemy. You attack from one side, and then it may find other ways to still find a way out to work out, and the fat oxidation of fat may be prevented. But when you are attacking from all sides, the fat has no choice but to just get oxidized and go away. So this is my presentation for today, and my idea here is to tell you about strengthening yourself, using your strengths as a woman, and maximizing your workouts, And an example of a stack, fat burning stack. There are a lot of fat burning stacks. I would like to add one more. There's a supplement called chromium picolinate. And that is very good for women who have the PCOD, because I hear so much of that. That's very common. And another supplement is CLA, which is used, which is good for women who have, the hypothyroidism. So these are two supplements. I would love to talk about it in detail, but I want to give you a little bit of time so that, you can ask me any questions if you wish to. And and then also you can write to me on info@bfysportsandfitness.com or ritasingh76@hotmail.com. You can also take these email IDs again from the WhatsApp number that was on the banner, and I will be very happy to answer your questions. So I would like, I need a little assistance with my old eyes. Okay, yes, I have a question here. That will creatine increase the body weight? Creatine is hygroscopic in nature. Creatine, there are many forms of creatine. There is creatine monohydrate, creatine ethyl ester, and buffer creatine. We strongly believe that the old school stuff, creatine monohydrate, works a lot. Sometimes it remains in the extracellular space. It doesn't completely go inside the cell. That is why I said that post-workout, you should take it with a high glycemic index carbohydrate so that it goes completely inside. If it remains in the extracellular space, it can give you a feeling of bloating, but it will not increase fat by any standards. And you should take it with sufficient amount of water. If you're taking a lot of water, then that gets, excessive water gets eliminated. So here, that's your answer to water retention also. Ethyl ester form gets the creatine completely inside the intracellular part. So that will keep you very pumped up. So, but you can write to me anything else. I really love to answer questions. The next question here is, whey protein isolate is the good protein supplement? Yes, it is. List of supplements for women. You can attend my next workshop. You're most welcome. And otherwise you can write to me. And okay, any other questions? New messages. Okay. Now I have something here. Taking whey protein isolate with a good diet is the greatest of all supplements. Yes, it is. Acetyl L-carnitine, ALCAR, yes, acetyl L-carnitine is shortened form of ALCAR. And okay, your Insta handle, yes, it's Rita Jairath _IFBB Pro. And chromium picolinate, yes, chromium is a very good, it's got a lot of lot of benefits. It is also good for people who aging people. It helps in tinnitus. You won't believe the kind of benefits it has. I mentioned PCOD because this is for women, and the old people, they won't wake up many times when they are having, sometimes old people wake up too many times, and that spoils the quality of sleep. Men, in weight training, we will increase weight that troubles clients. So no, you have to increase. There is something called progressive overload, which you might have heard of. And as you, there has to be a progression. So now these days, like in the Corona times, we cannot have very, very heavy weights at home all the time. So we do the number of sets or isometric holds or negative repetitions. So there are other ways in which you can do progression, but there always should be a progression. And if the ability to increase the weight, increase the load is not happening, then you must combine it with isometric exercise. There are other ways to do that, so that when something is not working, you strengthen everything around that. Like if you're not able to do a pull-up, what do? You strengthen the muscles, the rest of the muscles in the back, your trapezius and the scapula, everything else. You strengthen everything else, and then you try analogous movements. So when you strengthen analogous movements, either with the resistance band or the cable or lighter dumbbells, and then you get the knack of it. I always faced a love handle at the end of a ripping competition. Yes. Yohim Bean will work for you. Progressive overload. Yes, I've been working on. Okay, that's lovely. And so you can write to me, and I think that's done. I really, I'm so thankful that you all have written very, very kind words in the chat. And can you maintain the supplement? No, it's not actually specifically for hyperthyroidism. I will tell you about it. I said CLA because it is not a thermogenic fat burner, and it's actually technically a trans fat, but will not damage you the way industrial trans fats hurt you. So it is kind of an, it will dissolve the bad fats and eliminate the bad fats. That is one fat burner. I'm not saying a burner, but it is one supplement that you can take and sleep and get your fat levels lowered. So that's a good thing that it does. And now why for thyroid, hypothyroidism, I said, because they are already under medication, prescription medication from the doctor, and that raises their heart rate. So if their heart rate gets raised, you give them another thermogenic fat burner, that will be very detrimental for them. It's scary. So you don't do that. And that's why I say CLA is a good fat. It is actually conjugated linoleic acid. Also for PCOD. PCOD, I said chromium picolinate. It just works because, I don't want to really tell you a series of chemical reactions out here, but chromium picolinate has multiple benefits, and that will really help you a lot. And I would be very happy if you can, all write to me and ask me questions, and be there for my subsequent workshops also. Yeah, thank you so much, Aarti Chandran. And Rajiv ji, are you here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Rita ji. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm very grateful to you, and I've always wanted to do that. I thank Rajiv ji, Better Fitness for You. I cannot express how supportive he has been. I tell him a date and time, and he goes absolutely according to me. Thank you for supporting the cause, and I hope we have many more.
Thank you so much, Rita. It was really wonderful to be here.
Yes. Yeah.
And looking forward for the next one.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to meet your son also. He's been telling me since a very long time.
Yes, please. That will be great. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so I think we can end this session here.
Yes, okay. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Stay safe and healthy. See you in the next workshop, hopefully. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.